What's going on, everybody? This is Mohammed coming to you from a very dark hotel room in Dubai, and in this video I want to talk about what has become one of my favorite ways to edit photos, and that is the Dehancer film plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom. Now, a quick disclaimer before we start: the Dehancer team did reach out to me to make this video. However, I got a trial version of the product before I agreed to anything to see if I like it or not, because obviously I don't want to make a video about something I don't like. No money exchange hands, and this video is entirely my own opinion. But if you do decide to buy this plugin or any of Dehancer's other plugins, then you can use the code MRDOP for 10% off. That is MRDOP. All right, let's get started. Alright, so now we are in Photoshop, and I already have a couple of pictures loaded up. Both of these are taken with the Nikon Z5, and these are straight out of the camera raw files. I've not done anything to these settings, so they're just as shots. So let's load up Dehancer film, and you can see just how quickly it loads up. Like some other plugins, you load them and then they take a couple of minutes to load up, but Dehancer Pro is really fast. So if you're the type of person who does speed editing, this will not slow you down at all, and this was one of the main reasons I initially really took a liking to this plugin. So as you can see here in the main interface on the left side, we have all the profiles, and there's a ton of different profiles. And on the right hand side, we have all the different settings and adjustments that we can make to the photo. So before we get into any of this, I want to go to the settings, which you can do from here. And one of the things I really like is that there's a fast preview for images. So if you have an image that's bigger than 5 megapixels, 10, 15, or 20, it will render a fast preview. It's basically like an optimized media kind of thing. It will be a little bit lower quality, but it will load faster all of the different adjustments that you make to the photo. And make sure that you update film profiles regularly. I mean, there is a ton of profiles already, but Dehancer regularly adds different profiles. So you can press this button here to update your film profiles. Now let's get started. Right off the bat, we have all the different profiles on the left hand side. And if you just press on them, you can see how quickly the adjustments just show up. So all of these are based on real films. So this is how shooting with these films back in the day would have looked like. And they all have a different look. And again, you can see how quickly these looks load up. Now, if you have a favorite from any of these, you can click this heart button here, and it will put a little blue heart symbol next to that profile, so you can easily find it from all of the different profiles that you have here. For this particular picture, I like the Kodak Ektachrome E100, the 2017 version. It has a really nice warm look. But that's not all. So I want to further edit this picture. The whole point of this video is I want to show you how you can edit an entire picture just with this plugin. So here on the left, we have push and pull EV. This is basically your, exposure compensation thing. So if you, go to the right, it will brighten up the image. And I think that's, if you just bring it down a little bit, that looks good. Now on the right hand side in the source tab, we have temperature compensation. This is basically your white balance. So if you go up, it will make the image, if you go to the right, excuse me, it will make the image warmer. If you bring it to the left, it will make it a bit colder. I think the white balance is fine as it is. Then we have the tint, and then we have defringe and defringe radius. Now, just to jump in here and clarify that the defringe option works the same way it does in Lightroom or Camera Raw, which is to get rid of chromatic aberration or color fringing. But here it works hand in hand with the halation effect. So if you don't like the fringing or the chromatic aberration that the halation effect introduces, you can use defringe to get rid of it. Furthermore, we have in the expand section, the black point and the white point. Now, this is very important. This is how film was shot back in the day. You have to set your black point. That is basically what is absolute black. So if you move this, it will brighten up the blacks, and if you move the white point, it will, you know, either give you more white or take it away. Now, for this particular picture, I think the blacks are fine where they are, but the white points can go up just a little bit, just to give it that pop. Another part of this plugin, which is very important, is the actual print. This is where it emulates what kind of paper you will be printing it on. So we have different papers here, and of course the famous one is the Kodak Endura glossy paper, and that's what I use most of the time. Again, you have the same exposure controls here, exposure, and then we have color density, tonal contrast, and saturation. One of my criticisms for this plugin is that you cannot increase the saturation. Like, it's always at 100. So if you wanted a little bit more color, I guess you can do it through color density, but it's not really the same as saturation. And then there's tonal contrast, which it's basically micro contrast, right? When you move it to the right, it's gonna give you more contrast, and if you bring it to the left, it will remove that contrast. So I have it at 0 right now. I'm just gonna give it a little bit more contrast just to make her pop more from the background. This picture, by the way, was taken in Cappadocia in Turkey. If you don't know where that is, it's basically the city of hot air balloons, and it's amazing. Hot air balloons go up at sunrise, and it's one of the most surreal sunrises you will see in your life. Now, one of the most important parts of any film emulation plugins is the film grain, and film grain in this plugin looks great. So when you turn it on, you can see it will add a whole lot of grain, but of course you have very, very fine controls for just where this grain will show up and how large it is and what's this resolution and if it's colorful or not. So let's start. I'm gonna bring the amount down because it's a little too much for my tastes. I like just a hint of grain to the image. Resolution is how sharp these grains are, so if you bring it down, it's gonna look mushy. I like to bring it around like 22, 24. Again, for each picture it's different. And then shadows, midtones, and highlights is where this grain is going to show up. So right now it's mostly in the midtones. I don't like that. I don't like to have a lot of noise in the midtones because that means it's going to show up on your subjects. So I'm going to bring that all the way down, and I'm going to bring highlights down as well because this is where like her face is. Moving down, we have the color head, which is basically your color balances, you know, yellow, blue, magenta, green, and cyan, and red. I'm not going to touch these for now because I think the color here looks good, but for illustration purposes, you know, if you move these around, you're just going to change the hue of the colors in the picture. Now we get to halation. Now halation is an effect that gives you these glows at the edges of things. So if you turn on mask mode, it's a very good way to see what it's actually doing. So let me just bring this all the way up so you can really see what's going on here. So on the edges of her hat, you can see this very clearly. You see this little red outline? That is what halation is doing. What halation does is it always has kind of a red look to it. So if you can see here, on even on the edges of her arms, there is more of a red outline. So it's really you have to balance it and make sure that it's not too like in your eyes. I like a subtle look, so I'm just going to bring down the impact. So I want this you know, halation effect around her hat and her arms, but not too much. And then bloom. Bloom gives your highlights this real nice soft glow, and it makes the image more dreamy. I really like the bloom effect, and I think it's really well implemented here. So I'm just gonna play around with the settings until I get it to where I like it. Again, so here is without bloom, here is with bloom. It's still a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna bring down or bring up the save light. So here is before and after. And then there is vignettes, which when you turn on, you can either make the edges of the image darker, or you can even make it brighter. It depends on what kind of look you want for that particular picture. For this one, I'm gonna go just a bit dark to give more pop to her and the background, and that's it. So as you can see, let me just toggle the preview off and on. We went from this, which was a fine looking image, but very digital looking image as well. And we have this now, which looks really, really nice. And here in Photoshop, you can go back and forth and see what the plugin did to the image. Now, just to have a different kind of picture with more color, I chose this picture of a bride and the groom we had a couple of weeks ago. And we went to one of these old neighborhoods in Istanbul with really colorful cafes. So let's edit this picture and see what we can get out of it. Now, one of the things you can do with Dehancer Photo is make presets. This basically takes in the film profile you've chosen and all the different settings you've applied and makes it a preset. So let me just go to my presets and let me just apply and see which ones work well with the picture we have here. This one here is the one I created from the last photo. For this picture, this profile or this preset is not going to work. The halation and the bloom is just a little too ridiculous, but this other one I quite like. Even though there is halation, it's much more controlled and it gives that pop to the subjects. You can see the before and after, especially on her face. Let me just give it a little bit more impact to like there, before and after. I think it looks really good. So again, just with a few clicks, we went from this to this, and click OK and you're done. So all in all, I'm really liking the Dehancer Film plugin. Now keep in mind, this is a beta, it is not the final version, so I'm really looking forward to all the additions and improvements they will make to the final version. But even with the beta, it is a very, very cool plugin, and it can become the main way you edit your photos based on your style and preferences. Now, there are minor quirks like not being able to increase the saturation. I know you can do that with Photoshop or Lightroom, but it would be good to see how the increased saturation goes hand in hand with the film effect while inside Dehancer itself. But overall, the entire experience has been very positive so far. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it and found it informative. Please leave a like on this video. Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget, you can use my code MRDOP to get 10% off of any of Dehancer's plugins. I'll leave that in the description as well. Till next time.